Hey, what's up everybody? Ed the Pond Professor here. I'm coming to you from Aqualand right now. I just came in from outside on our main pond, putting in a brand new sand beach on our big recreational pond at our office, as well as doing a clean out. So I was just involved in doing that. This is the pond that they built earlier this winter. Now I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna cut a hole in this thing right over here on this side, put a piece of tempered glass in there so we have a beautiful view. Let me show you what I'm gonna do here. There we have a happy face. 7,500 gallons of water. If it fails, goes that way. Retail store over on this side. This is where all of our guests are going to come in. Over on this side is we have this beautiful koi pond. The fish have been moved temporarily. We pump the water from here into these holding tanks. We have aerators and everything in them. Some of the smaller fish have been relocated into this one. And then these tanks here are just holding the water. We want to just store the water in here because this water has cycled. We went through the process. The fish have been in here for well over a month now. So all this water, the microorganisms, all that good stuff is growing inside of here. We want to protect that. So what we're doing right now, we're just taking the last little bit of water out of here, draining this down all the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut a section of this wood out. I have some pieces of steel that I'm going to create basically a compression joint for the glass as well as the rubber liner. So what I need to do though is I have to reinforce this, because now what I'm doing is taking out a section of that structural component, so I have to beef all this stuff up. So I have a series of 2x12s and things like that that are going to go inside of here as well as on the bottom. That'll kind of lock everything together to give us the necessary structure that we're looking for. Hopefully, if all goes smoothly here, I should have this done by tomorrow afternoon, just so we can get these fish back in here as quickly as possible, get them reacclimated. Everything's going to be looking good. So stay tuned for this fun little journey here as we start chopping, cutting, and splicing into that wood structure. I'm getting everything prepared. I always do sketches on everything that I do, and hopefully you get a little bit out of this. And actually, if you're interested in more drawings, I always do sketches on all my projects. I could show more of these if it makes things easier and more digestible. This was the original wall structure, 2x4 construction, plywood bolted to the concrete floor. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in and I'm cutting a section of the wall out. As soon as I start doing that, it's going to change the overall structure. It's going to become a lot weaker. You can see here I have 2x12 wooden pieces. That's going to give me a good solid mounting area. And it's also, if you've noticed the positioning, this is a top view, so the pond is on this side. So I'm going to have a lot of weight coming from here. So what happens is you have a twist. If you have a load going against something, it's going to want to push a wall over. So what I want to do is I'm going to spread this weight out over a bigger area. It's going to transition the weight of all that pressure from this first piece into the second one, and it's going to try to rock it. And if those are bolted down properly, it should resist all of that stuff. So then once I have my frame taken care of, I'm going to get some steel plates made. I'm going to have an angle iron on one end, then I'm going to have another steel plate on the other end. What I'm trying to do is create a compression joint. You can see I have my EPDM liner here. So the liner is going to go across. I'm going to have a couple penetrations that are going to go with stainless steel hardware through the rubber liner. And that's going to have to get attached to that 2x12. That's going to become a weak point right there. So that little blue stuff right there on the drawing, that's actually showing a sealant. On the other side, just where the penetrations are at. The other area where I'm going to have a huge area for potential water loss is the connection between the rubber liner and the glass panel. I'm going to use just a regular silicone sealant in there. So what happens is when I bolt this angle iron directly to the wooden structure, that's going to give me a hinge point. This metal plate is going to go across and it's going to bridge from this metal plate all the way to the glass. So I'm going to have a steel stud coming out, and then I could put a nut on the end of it. When I do that, it's going to tighten that metal plate and it's going to draw it in really, really tight. When that occurs, I'm going to be putting pressure right here on this glass panel, and it's going to take that silicone and it's going to squish it and it's going to push it all out. If you do everything properly, have everything plumb, everything solid, all this should go together really, really simply. I'm going to go get all my wood, and then what we have to do is we have to drain down that pond and we'll be ready to go. All right, I just removed this cap board that was holding this edge of the liner down. This is going to allow me to pull all of this rubber lining in. You can see we drained all the water out. I start marking and cutting all of this stuff to accept a frame that I'm going to build to actually hold everything in place. So you can see how they kind of had this cross bracing and all that stuff in place, and that's just to keep that load transferred from the top plate all the way down to that bottom. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start cutting and putting in a bottom plate down in here. So I'm going to come in with a large 2x12, and what that's going to do is it's going to connect these two individual pieces that are bolted down, but by tying them together, now they start to share the load between them. I need a good solid structure to work off of, so that's going to be a good base for me. And then I'm going to come up with some more 2x12s over here on the side to create connecting point against the plywood coming in from the other side, from this side over here, with my screws and everything to bolt the steel plates directly to everything. And then the liner obviously will be in between everything, but I need a good solid structure to work off of. So 2x12s are going in, creating that boxed out frame. This is going to be the bottom of the visible glass, so that'll all be cut out. And the whole reason that I'm going through the entire process of using 2x12 lumber, locking everything in place and trying to get that width is to resist that force. Water, super heavy, actually 8.345 pounds per gallon. We have thousands and thousands of gallons of water in here. That push is going to be on this wall. Force is going to be pushing that wall out. By having a wider wall, it's going to resist that force. So again, we want to resist that force pushing this entire wall out. So by doing that, we lock everything in tight here, and we transfer that load down to the ground, which is connected to that plate, which is bolted into the concrete. So it's all about managing those different forces of what's going to be happening here. So next step, put another little ledge piece over in here, finish boxing everything out, and then I can start cutting all the wood out. The framing is complete. You can see I have all the 2x12. I got some blocking in place to kind of lock everything up. I also put in some filler pieces up here on top, and this is just going to stiffen everything up, and it's going to connect the front wall to the back wall. So my next step right now, I just marked the area right in here. I'm going to start cutting all this stuff out. This is all going to open up, and then I'll start to prepare the area for the glass. One of the things that I have to do is there is going to be a piece of channel angle iron, 1.5 inches. So it's going to kind of go over this edge. It's going to help stiffen up the glass itself, but it's also going to help connect this wall to that side. So again, that's one of my big concerns, is I want to make sure that these walls don't move independently of each other. Again, I'm not an expert in glass, so I want to make sure that I'm covering all of my bases here. All right, so here is my glass panel. I am positioning my steel plates. This is going to be the mounting hardware that's going to go on either side. It's going to put it under compression. It's going to push the glass up against the rubber liner, and then I'll have my silicone seal in between there. Here's the other brackets that are going to go in place. Just want to see how everything lays out here before I start bolting everything together inside of the tank. Alright, so I laid out all my pieces over on the floor, leveled everything up, made sure that my dimensions were good. I then came and I took those dimensions and I actually marked them out outside of steel channel, and then I set the steel in place using the top lag bolt just to make sure that everything was going to line up. Then I came in and I marked, you see all these holes in there? I came in and I marked the center of each of those holes all the way down. What I'm doing, I'm going to pre-drill all these out, just going through the 1/2-inch plywood. I'm not going all the way into the 2x material because I want that really to bite with the lag bolts. So what I'll do is I'll lay everything out. I'm going to put a bead of silicone over all this stuff to seal it, and then I'm going to put the liner in place, and then I'll have to refine these holes. So I mark them up on the top so I know exactly where those are going to be, and then I'll start putting the screws in. I'm going to continue coming in, drilling all these holes out, and then I am ready for my sealant. And oh, I forgot one thing. I still have to cut a channel up in here to accept a steel plate. These are all set. I have everything pre-drilled. We're gonna go mount these with the sealant between the liner and the plywood over on that side, and then we'll bolt everything in place. We're ready? So liner is up. We just dried everything. Brian, Chris, ready to go. We are going to pull the liner back. We have to put a sealant between the plywood and the liner, just where those screw holes are going, but we'll just do a massive seal all the way across that. We're gonna mount the glass, silicone. Stuff we're using, marine adhesive for the plywood liner, and then the other one is just gonna be silicone. All of the main angle iron brackets are in place. We have all of our little stainless steel studs coming out, and it's going to be time to do the silicone sealant and then the glass.
I agree.
All right, everything looks great today. Just peeling off the excess liner in here. You can see my silicone has pushed its way through. So if you remember last night when we tightened these up, we put pressure on this by tightening these bolts. What that did is it squeezed that together. That silicone went in both directions. You could actually see it good on this side here, that the silicone kind of got bubbled out on both sides. As soon as I compressed it, it shot that way and that way, so that way I know I had really good compression all the way along. So now what I need to do is just kind of scrape away all the excess stuff over here, and I think we're gonna be in pretty good shape. We will need to obviously dress this up on the inside. We're gonna put something more decorative on top of that, so this will be a really nice little viewing area, allowing people to come up and look inside. So far, really liking the look of it. There we have a happy face.
What I can't wait is to sit here just like this. I can picture kids sitting here and just looking at this. I mean, I love how you see all the way down.
Me too.
Did it go as smooth as you thought?
It went pretty smooth. I was being probably overcautious, so just...
Imagine that.
Well, yeah.
Measure 3 times, cut once. That's Eddie.
Well, 7,500 gallons of water. If it fails, goes that way.
Eddie did a great job. It
Awesome.
looks fantastic with that in the background.
It looks awesome. I agree. So the fish are not stressed, which is good. Plenty of air in here. We're going to start filling this up with water, and then we are going to get those fish in here later on today. So the gravel bed has been washed down. Put a little bit of seam tape on some of these corners, and the reason we're going to do seam tape, you could see what the guys did here before, is because we just have bare liner exposed. We don't want all the folds and all that stuff like that, so we're going to try to tuck it in so it's not as visible. Water's going in. We have city water coming in over here, and then this water is being pumped out of the other tanks that we use for storage. Remember, this is all the aged water, so this came out of the existing pond, has all that good nitrifying bacteria, which are important for the nitrification process. Pumping that back in, and we are still using the pond detoxifier to neutralize ammonia, as well as take care of any of the chlorine, chloramines that are coming out of the city water. Water's filling up, everything looks good. Checking all my connections. Don't see any sign of water at this point, so that is a good sign. I do still have a lot of messy silicone down here, which kind of keeps freaking me out because it glistens like it's water. So far, so good. All right, now I just need another 2 feet of water in there. Holding tanks are empty. Pond is just about full. These tanks are drawn down halfway. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna catch the fish, put them back in that pond, and then we'll continue filling up the pond with water, and we should be all set. Check it out, it's complete. Actually, my big head is in the way. There it is, looks awesome. Fish are swimming around, they're happy. This is all the big guys. Water's still really cloudy because we've been cleaning, we've been stirring, we've been changing water out. Looks phenomenal. I have been anxiously monitoring everything to make sure everything's holding tight. I'm assuming at this point everything should be okay just because I haven't had any problems. So successful project. Glad to see it coming to an end. Now the next steps are literally just kind of doing the dress up work on the outside, trimming things up. We can call this project done.